Alex stared at his bank statement. His eyes widened. The numbers didn't lie. He had been avoiding this moment for weeks, hoping that somehow, miraculously, his financial situation would improve on its own. But now, the reality was staring him in the face, and it was worse than he thought. It was worse than he thought. The debt had piled up, and his savings were almost non-existent. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he realized how careless he had been with his spending. The late-night takeouts, the daily coffee runs, and the impulsive online shopping sprees had all added up. Empty coffee cups and takeout boxes littered his counter, a testament to his poor spending habits. Each cup and box was a reminder of a moment of convenience that had cost him dearly. He could almost see the money slipping through his fingers with every discarded container. "Okay," he muttered. "Time to get serious." He knew that continuing down this path was not an option. He had to make a change, and it had to start now. The first step was acknowledging the problem, and he had done that. Now, it was time to take action. This wasn't just about money, it was about taking control of his life. He needed a budget. He needed a plan. He sat down with a notebook and started writing. He listed his income, his expenses, and his debts. He set goals for himself, both short-term and long-term. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to make it work. Alex knew he wasn't alone. He had friends who were going through similar struggles. They had talked about it in passing, but no one had ever really opened up about the extent of their financial woes. It was a topic that was often avoided, a source of silent stress. He'd seen his friends struggle. They all had their own battles with money, and they all put on a brave face. They laughed and joked, but behind the laughter there was a shared sense of worry. They were all trying to keep up appearances, to maintain a facade of stability. They all put on a brave face. They went out for drinks, they bought new clothes, they went on vacations. But behind the scenes, they were all struggling to make ends meet. They were all dealing with the same pressures, the same anxieties. But behind the laughter, they were worried too. They just didn't know how to fix it. They were all in the same boat, but no one had the answers. They were all looking for a way out, a way to regain control of their finances and their lives. They just didn't know how to fix it. They were all searching for solutions, but the path forward was unclear. They needed guidance, they needed support, and they needed to know that they weren't alone in their struggles. Alex took a deep breath. He could do this. He had to. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face it head on. He was ready to take control of his finances, to make better choices, and to build a more secure future for himself. This was his wake-up call, and he was determined to answer it. Alex opened a spreadsheet. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and the park was bustling with life. But Alex's mind was far from the serene surroundings. Rows and columns swam before him, a sea of numbers that seemed to mock his every attempt to make sense of them. Each cell was a tiny puzzle piece, and the picture they formed was one of confusion and frustration. It was like trying to understand a foreign language, one that he had never studied and had no hope of mastering. The formulas and functions were hieroglyphics, and he was no archaeologist. He started listing his expenses: rent, bills, groceries, transportation, and that daily latte he couldn't resist. Each entry felt like a small defeat, a reminder of how quickly his money disappeared. That daily latte he couldn't resist. It was his one indulgence, a small comfort in an otherwise stressful life. But even that seemed extravagant now, as he watched the numbers add up. The numbers added up faster than he could type. His fingers flew over the keyboard, but it was a losing battle. The more he typed, the more hopeless it seemed. He felt a wave of panic rising, a tightness in his chest that made it hard to breathe. The spreadsheet was a monster, and he was its prey. This is impossible, he thought, his frustration boiling over. He wanted to scream, to throw the laptop into the nearest pond, to run away from the numbers that haunted him. Alex closed the laptop, defeated. The weight of his financial troubles pressed down on him, a heavy burden that he couldn't shake off. Maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe he wasn't cut out for this. The thought gnawed at him, a persistent doubt that he couldn't ignore. Maybe he should just accept his fate as a financially challenged individual. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but it seemed easier than fighting a battle he couldn't win. He pictured himself in 20 years, still eating ramen noodles and living paycheck to paycheck. He shuddered at the thought, a future that seemed all too possible if he didn't find a way to change his circumstances. No, he thought, I can't give up. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. He would find a way to make sense of the numbers, to take control of his finances, and to build a better future for himself. He had to. Just then, his grandma called. Alex had been feeling overwhelmed with his financial situation for weeks. Bills were piling up, and his paycheck seemed to vanish as soon as it hit his bank account. He needed advice, and he knew exactly who to turn to. She was a budgeting pro. Grandma had always been meticulous with her finances. She had lived through tough times and learned how to make every penny count. Alex remembered how she used to save every coin in a jar, and at the end of the year, she would have enough to buy something special. She could stretch $1 further than anyone Alex knew. It was almost like magic. She had a way of making things last longer and finding deals that no one else could. Alex admired her for that and hoped to learn her secrets. He told her about his struggles. "Grandma, I don't know what to do. Every month it feels like I'm drowning in expenses. How did you manage to keep everything under control?" he asked, his voice tinged with desperation. Her response was simple. "Imagine your money is like a leaky faucet." "Alex, think of your money as water flowing through a faucet. If there's a leak, even a small one, you'll lose a lot over time. You need to find those leaks and fix them," she explained. "You gotta find those drips and plug them." She was right. Alex realized that he had been ignoring the small, unnecessary expenses that were adding up. It was time to take a closer look at his spending habits and make some changes. It wasn't just about earning more, it was about wasting less. Grandma's words resonated with him. He needed to be more mindful of where his money was going and cut out the waste. It was a lesson in frugality that he had to embrace. Alex's grandma explained the 50-30-20 rule. It's a simple way to manage your money. 50% of your income should go to your needs, like rent, groceries, and utilities. 30% can be for your wants, the things that make life enjoyable. And the remaining 20% should be saved or used to pay off debt, she said. 50% of his income should go to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. Alex took notes, determined to follow her advice. It seemed like a manageable plan, something he could stick to, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. He realized that he had been neglecting his savings and often spent impulsively on things he didn't really need. It was time to prioritize and make smarter choices. She made it sound so easy. Grandma's confidence was infectious. She had a way of simplifying complex ideas and making them seem achievable. Alex felt a sense of relief wash over him. Alex felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time in months, he believed that he could get his finances under control. He had a plan, and with Grandma's guidance, he knew he could make it work. Maybe he could do this after all. With renewed determination, Alex set out to tackle his financial challenges. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but with Grandma's wisdom and his newfound resolve, he was ready to take on the world. Armed with newfound knowledge and his grandma's words of wisdom, Alex tackled his budget again. He decided to try a budgeting app. He found one that looked user-friendly. He linked his bank account. The app automatically categorized his spending. He stared at the pie chart. Eating out was a much bigger slice than he'd realized. "Okay," he said. "Time to cut back on the takeout." The app even let him set spending limits for different categories. It was like having a personal finance guru in his pocket. The first month was tough. Alex had to say no to a few social outings. He started packing his lunch. He even tried cooking at home more. It wasn't gourmet, but it was cheaper. And hey, he was getting pretty good at making pasta. At the end of the month, Alex checked his budget. He had actually stuck to it. He'd even managed to save a little. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He felt a surge of pride. He was finally taking control of his finances. Of course, there were temptations. Alex's friends were going on a weekend getaway. He really wanted to go. He checked his budget. He couldn't afford it. He almost gave in, but then he remembered his goal. He politely declined the trip. His friends were disappointed, but they understood. They knew he was trying to be responsible. Besides, he had a plan. He would join them next time, when he could actually afford it. Budgeting wasn't just about restrictions. Alex discovered it was also about priorities. He could still enjoy life, just in a more mindful way. He started looking for free or low-cost activities. He went to free concerts in the park. He explored museums on discount days. He realized that experiences were more valuable than material possessions. He was spending less, but enjoying life more. Who knew budgeting could be fun? It's been a year since Alex's wake-up call. His financial situation has drastically improved. He's no longer drowning in debt. He's actually saving for a down payment on a house. He's still not a millionaire, but he's on the right track. And that's what matters. He knows there will be challenges ahead, but now he has the tools and the mindset to face them head on. He's learned that budgeting isn't about deprivation. It's about freedom. Freedom to pursue his dreams without being held back by financial stress. Alex's story is a reminder that we all face financial challenges at some point. But it's also a story of hope. It shows that with a little effort and the right tools, we can all take control of our finances and achieve our goals. So what are you waiting for? Start your budgeting journey today. Your future self will thank you.